Welcome back to Sulekha Physics classes. It is the most easiest way to learn all the concept of physics through this class. Hope you all are doing well. Today I am going to start one short revision of all the 14 chapters of physics. And I will start with chapter 1, that is electric charges and field. This chapter comes under unit electrostatics. Electrostatics means study of charges at rest. Right? And under this unit, two chapter comes. Chapter 1 electric charges and field, and chapter 2 electric potential and capacitance. So in this unit electrostatics, we will study about electric force, electric field, potential, capacitance, different things, right? So let us start with this chapter 1 electric charges and field. As the name suggests, what is this electric charge? Actually, electric charge is an intrinsic property of any object which apply electric force on any other object. It means, suppose there are two objects, one is A, another one is B. If this second B object comes near this A object, then what happens? A object has the property to exert force on any other object, whether it is charged or neutral. This A object exerts force on this second body, and this property of this first object is called electric charge, right? So you can write in this way, it is an intrinsic property. Inside the atom, there are electrons, protons, neutrons. This is the property of that smallest particle, electron, proton, neutron, right? It is an intrinsic property of an object by virtue of which it applies electric force on any other object, right? Suppose this is one object and this object has some property to apply force on any other object, right? This is called electric charge. Electric charge is a scalar quantity, right? And its SI unit is coulomb. It is denoted by capital C also. Now there are two types of charge. One is positive charge and the one is negative charge, right? Positive charge means it has every object is neutral, equal number of positive and negative charge. So what is this positive charge? It means there is some deficiency of electrons, more number of protons are present. So positive charge means deficiency of electron, right? And negative charge means excess of electron. It means, suppose there are two bodies and electron transfer from this A body to another body B. So in this A body, some electron is transferred, so it has more number of positive charge. So this becomes positively charged body, and this has more number of negative charge. So this becomes negatively charged body. So positive charge is deficiency of electron and negative charge is excess of electron, right? Now there are different properties of charge. First one is like charges. Like charges means either both are positive charge or both are negative charge. Suppose this one, there are two positive charges or two negative charges. So if these two charges are present, then they exert force on each other. And what type of force? Repulsive force. So if there are two like charges, they repel each other. And if there are two unlike charges, one is positive and another one is negative. So both these charges attract each other. Both exerts force on each other. And what type of force? Attractive force. So this one is important property. Like charges repel each other and unlike charges attract each other, right? Now second one, charges are additive in nature. This one is also very important property. Suppose there is one system or one body and there are different number of charges Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Suppose there are 4 charges, right? So total charge on this body Q is equal to sum of individual charges present at different points inside this body or system. So total charges is additive in nature because charge is a scalar quantity. So this one is additive in nature. Next one is third one. Charge always comes with mass. It means what? Whenever there is transfer of electron, suppose an electron transfers from this body to this body, then what happens? Whenever there is transfer of electron, there is transfer of mass also. But reverse is not true. If there is transfer of mass from this body to this body, it doesn't mean that there is transfer of electrons. So, charge always comes with mass, but reverse is not true. There is also one difference between charge and mass. Mass depends on velocity, right? But charge does not depends on velocity. Now next important property. This property is very important, that is conservation of charge. Conservation of charge means total charge of an isolated system always remains constant. It means charge can neither be created nor be destroyed, right? Total charge always remains constant. Total charge, suppose Q, and this is always constant. It just transfer from one body to another body, right? And there is one important property, last one, that is quantization of charge. What does it mean? Quantization of charge means total charge on any body is always integral multiple of this smallest value of charge, that is called this smallest value of charge is called fundamental charge. What is the value for this smallest value of charge? This is charge of electron, 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. And this charge of electron is called fundamental charge. So, charge on any body is always integral multiple of this charge of electron or fundamental charge, right? Suppose there is transfer of electron from this body to this body. So, transfer of electron may be 1 electron, 2 electron, 3 electron, not fractional value like half electron, 2 by 3 electron, no. Charge always is an integral multiple of this smallest value of charge. So, formula becomes Q equal to plus minus Ne. N is an integer, Q is total charge on body, and E is charge on electron or fundamental charge, right? So, these are different properties of charge. Now, please take a screenshot of this one. After this, I will discuss different methods of charging, okay? Fast, note down. Now, methods of charging. Methods of charging means transfer of charge, right? You know that there are two types of body. One is charged body, and another one is uncharged body, right? Charged body means it has either positive charge or negative charge, and uncharged body means no charge, neutral, no charge. Net positive charge is equal to negative charge and total charge becomes 0. And you know that every body is neutral. So, the neutral body can be charged by transfer of charge, or you can say electron, from one body to another body. And for this, there are different methods of charging. First one is by friction method. By friction method means what? Suppose there are two bodies, A and B, and both are rubbing with each other. What happened? By rubbing, heat is generated and there is transfer of electrons from one body to another body, like this way. Suppose this one is body A and this one is body B. Both are neutral, uncharged. Now, by rubbing with each other, heat is generated and electrons transfers from one body to another body, right? There is transfer of electron, and this from body A, electron is transferred to body B. So body B has more number of electrons and body A has less number of electrons. It means A becomes positively charged, right? And B becomes negatively charged body. In this way, body can be charged by friction method. One example, suppose glass rod, right? Glass rod rubbed with silk. Now what happens? By rubbing, heat is generated and electrons transfer from this glass rod to silk, and glass rod becomes positively charged, right? And silk becomes negatively charged. Okay. There is another example, by rubbing a comb on head with hair. Now what happens? By rubbing comb with hair, there is transfer of electron from one one body to another body. It means comb to hair, and the comb becomes charged, and it has property of attracting any other objects. When you place that comb near small bits of paper, that bits of paper is attracted by the comb. It shows that comb is now charged by rubbing on head with hair, right? So these are methods of charging by friction. Second one is by conduction method. Conduction method means direct contact or touching, right? In this one, by conduction method, when an uncharged body comes in direct contact with the charged body, then that uncharged body also gets charged by the same polarity, right? Suppose this body A is uncharged body, and there is body B which is positively charged body, right? This has positive charge. Now when these two bodies comes in direct contact with each other, right? This one is body B. Then due to this positive charged body, negative charge comes to this side and positive charge comes to this side, right? Now what happens? These negative and positive charges neutralize each other, and this body A becomes positively charged body, right? So by this conduction method, the uncharged body, this A is uncharged, and this one is charged body. Here it is positively charged. So the uncharged body can be charged by the same polarity as that of the charged body. Here it is positively charged. So this uncharged body also becomes positively charged. If this charged body is negatively charged, then this uncharged body also becomes negative charge, right? So by conduction method, we can charge the body by the same polarity. Now next one is by induction method. This is means without direct contact, without touching, right? In this one, the uncharged body can be charged by different polarity. Suppose this one is body A and this is positively charged body, right? And there is another body B which is uncharged. This body is uncharged and this one is positively charged. Positively charged body. Now what happens when these two bodies comes near to each other? Then due to this positive charge, electrons of this uncharged body comes to this side nearer to this positively charged body, and whole positive charge goes to the farther end, and in this way charge distribution takes place. This one is body A, positively charged, and this is body B. So electrons comes to this side and positive charge goes to this side. Now suppose this end is earthing, because we know that earth is a good conductor of electricity. It can take large number of electrons inside, right? So it has large number of free electrons, so this positive charge goes inside the earth, and after this separating the two bodies, this body B becomes negatively charged, is uniformly distributed after earthing this one. So here charged body is positively charged and we can produce body B negatively charged body. It means opposite polarity. If this one is negatively charged body, then this body B becomes positively charged. So by induction method, different polarity of the charged body can be produced, right? So these are different methods of charging. This is not so important, but still it is in the syllabus, so must revise it. First one is friction method, then conduction method, and last one is induction method. After this, I am going to solve one numerical from NCERT book, page number 46. Page number 46, question number 1.11, right? In this question, it is given that a polyethylene piece rubbed with wool is found to have a negative charge of 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. When a polythene piece, suppose this is polythene and it is rubbed with wool, right? So this polythene piece becomes negatively charged. It means there is transfer of electron from wool to polythene, and this polythene has excess number of electrons, and this wool becomes positively charged. And how much charge is transferred from this wool to electron? This polythene piece has 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb total charge. 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. Now, in first part, estimate the number of electrons transferred from which to which. So it's clear that electron is transferred from wool to polythene because polythene becomes negatively charged. So electron is transferred from wool to polythene. But how much electron is transferred, you have to find. So using quantization formula Q equal to NE, you have to find number of electrons N. Q is given. So you can easily find N equal to how much? Q by E. So Q is 3 into 10 to the power minus 7 and E is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. And by solving this one, you get the answer 1.875. Whatever you get the answer, just solve it, 10 to the power 12 number of electrons. It means this much number of electrons is transferred from wool to polythene. Now the second part, this one is A part. In B part, is there any transfer of mass from wool to polythene? There is one property of charge that if there is transfer of charge, then must be there is transfer of mass also, but reverse is not true. Here there is transfer of electron from wool to polythene, it means there is transfer of mass also. So yes, answer is yes, right? So please take a screenshot of this one. After this, I'm going to start next topic, Coulomb's law. Now, Coulomb's law. According to this law, the force between any two charged bodies, suppose there are 2 point charges, this one is Q1 and another one is Q2, and distance between the two charges is suppose R. So force between any 2 point charge is directly proportional to product of the charges and inversely proportional to square of distance between the two charges. It means F is directly proportional to Q1 Q2 by R square, and this becomes F equal to K Q1 Q2 by R square, where K is called electrostatic force constant, and this value of K depends on medium, on which medium this charge is kept, right? So, and this K is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is called permittivity of free space, and free space, its value is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12. What is the unit for this epsilon naught? This F becomes K is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. So this epsilon naught unit is what? This comes to this side, so Coulomb square by Newton meter square. So this one is Coulomb square by Newton meter square. This is the value for permittivity of free space. And if you put this value in this equation, then the value of K becomes what for free space? When you put epsilon naught equal to 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12, then this K becomes 9 into 10 to the power 9, and unit for K is Newton meter square per Coulomb square, right? For free space, its value is 9 into 10 to the power 9 square per Coulomb square. And this, there is a force between these two charge bodies. This Q1 exerts force on Q2, and this Q2 charge body also exerts force on this Q1. What is direction for that force? Direction of force is always along line joining the two charges. This is the line joining the two charges. So direction of force, whether force due to Q1 is along this one, again force due to Q2 is also along this one, are always along the line joining the two charges. Is it clear? This is Coulomb's law, and this one is very, very important. This generally comes in 2 or 3 marks question, right? Okay. Now, after this, next one is Coulomb's law in vector form. It's also very, very important. Generally comes in 2 or 3 marks question. So you have to write just Coulomb's law in vector form. Suppose there are two charges Q1 and Q2 and separated by a distance R. R is the distance of separation between the two charges. Now, due to this Q1 charge, this Q2 charge experiences some force, right? So force on this Q2 charge due to Q1 is given by F21. F21 is force on Q2 due to Q1, and its direction is along the line joining the two charges. So if both are same charge, so direction is away from this one, right? And its direction is given by just simply write F force on 2 due to 1, this one, K Q1 Q2 by R square. Here R is this one from 1 to 2. So R is always equal to R12 magnitude or R21, where you measure from 1 to 2 or 2 to 1. Same distance R. So you write R12, or you can write R also in place of this one, right? In place of R12, write R square. Okay? And this is a unit vector which shows direction, right? What is direction of this force F21? From 1 to 2. So R12. R12 is a unit vector in the direction from 1 to 2. It means direction of F21 is from 1 to 2. Right? And this unit vector, you know, unit vector A is given by vector A by magnitude A. You studied in the last class now? Right? So you can write R12 is also R12 vector by magnitude of R12. Similarly, force on this Q1 due to this Q2. On Q1, so due to Q2, F12, and it is always along the line joining two charges away from this one, if both are positive or negative charge. So direction of force is along this one, right? So force on 1 due to 2 is given by K, Q1, Q2, and again R21. So you can write this R21 magnitude is also equal to R. So R square you can write here. Now direction of this force is from 2 to 1. So R2 1, right? And R21 is R21 vector by magnitude R21. You know that this R21 is in this direction, left side, and R12 is in towards right side, right? Both are opposite in direction. Both are equal but opposite in direction, right? So R12, you can write R12 equal to minus R21, and you put this value in equation 1, either 1 or 2, you find that F12 equal to minus F21, right? And you can easily show that this is in accordance with Newton's third law of motion, Coulomb's law, right? This is Coulomb's law in Vector form, simply it's very simple. Just write in scalar form k q1 q2 by r square, and just to show the direction you use unit vector. Force on 2 due to 1, it means from 1 to 2, so r12. Force on 1 due to 2, it means from 2 to 1, so r21. Just simply write this one. Okay, revise it. It's very important. Generally comes in 2 or 3 marks question. Okay, take a screenshot of this one. After this, I will discuss force between multiple charges or superposition principle. Now, force between multiple charges or superposition principle. It states that if there are number of charges interacting in a system, then total force on any one charge is always equal to vector sum of force exerted on it due to other charges. And also must keep in mind that the force between any two charges is not affected by the presence of other charge. Suppose there are q1 charge, q2 charge, q3 number of charges are there, right? Now the force between any two charges is not affected by the presence of other charges, and total force on this q1 is always equal to vector sum of force exerted on 1 due to 2 second charge plus force on 1 due to third charge plus force on 1 due to fourth charge, in this way due to nth charge. It is vector sum of force due to all other charges in the system. This is superposition principle. It is very important. The same principle is applicable for electric field also. We discussed later on after this one, right? Now I am going to solve a numerical based on this superposition principle. Here 4 equal point charges plus q are placed on the 4 corners of a square, right? There is a square. Suppose this is a square A, B, C, D of charge plus Q, plus Q, plus Q. Very important question, right? Plus Q charges are kept placed on the 4 corners of a square of side A. Side is what? A. Yani ki distance between the two charges is A. Calculate the force on any one of the charge. You have to calculate force exerted on any one charge due to other charges. Suppose let us take this point D. Now force on this charge at point D is due to this charge present at point A due to this charge and due to this charge, and it is vector sum of all charges. So total force on this charge plus Q, it means at D point. Suppose this charge experiences force due to this charge kept at point A, right? And the force is along this direction, right? This is force due to charge placed at point A, right? Now again B, so due to this B charge also it experiences force along this direction. Direction of force is always along the line joining the two charges, and due to C charge also it experiences force in this direction. So there are 3 forces. This one is due to B and this one is due to C. All 3 are in different directions. Now you have to find total force, resultant force at this point D. So it is simple. Total force is vector sum of all these forces, right? So how you add vector addition? You studied the last class, last year, 11th class. Parallelogram law of vector addition, triangle law of vector addition. You apply just these 2 laws, right? So here first you write what is FA, force on this Q charge due to this plus Q charge placed at A is K. Q and Q both are same, so Q square by what distance between the two charges is A square, right? And it is along which direction? AD, if you extend AD, so along AD produced, right? Now again F, this one is C. FC is again K, Q square by distance is again A, so A square along CD produced, right? It is along this direction, CD produced. And you find here that these 2 are same, so you can write FA is also F and FC is also F. Now FB, what is distance between these 2 charges? This is diagonal of the square. It is always equal to root 2 of side, root 2a. So here charge is again plus q. So k q1 q2 whole square means q square by under root 2a whole square. And this is along BD produced, right? So there are three forces acting at this point. Now you have to add these three forces. Vector addition using this superposition principle. So how you add this one? Yes. This FA and FC are in two different directions. They are kept at 90-degree angle. So resultant is along this one. Resultant of FA and FC is along this direction. So you find resultant of FA and FC is suppose F dash, and it is equal to under root. Suppose there are two vectors, one is along this direction and then is along this direction, A and B vector. But the resultant is along this direction. Resultant is always equal to under root A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta and cos 90 0. So just R equal to under root A square plus B square. Here also F dash is equal to under root FA square plus FC square, and both are equal. FA and FC are equal to F. So you can write under root twice F square. Yes, na? This is also F and this one is also F. So this becomes under root 2F. Right? Now, again, this F dash is along, resultant of F and FC is also along this direction, F dash, and FV is also in that direction. So now, F dash and which force? FB is along same direction. So you just add these two forces, you get total force F net, you can write, or F total at point D is equal to F dash plus FB. What is F dash? F dash is root 2 F. And what is the value of F? F is K Q square by A square plus FB. FB is again K Q square by under root 2 A whole square. It means twice root 2 square means 2 and A square. So this becomes equal to, you take common, K Q square by A square, and inside this bracket root 2 plus 1 by 2. Right? So this is the total force. You can write in this way. F equal to how much? K Q square by A square. This is under root 1 by 2 plus under root 2. This is the total force exerted by charge kept at point D. Right? In this way you can solve using superposition principle. This is a square, 4 charges are kept at 4 corners. Then how you solve this question? You take the resultant of these two forces and that one is also along this FB. So you just add these two forces, you get the total force at this point. Right? Is it clear? Take a screenshot of this one. Then we'll move to the next topic, that is electric field. Now, electric field. What is electric field? It is region around any charged body in which if another body comes, it experiences some force due to that charged body in that region. So the region up to which any other body experiences force, that region is called electric field. So to determine the value of that electric field, what is the value of that electric field? We use the quantity electric field intensity. It is denoted by E and its value is given by, to determine the value of this electric field intensity, you put a small test charge. Suppose this is a positive test charge near this charge in this region, right? Now, how much force experienced by this test charge due to this charge is nothing but electric field intensity. So you can write electric field intensity E equal to force experienced by that positive test charge. this test charge must be very small so that it does not create its own electric field. Otherwise, the two electric field intersect, which is not possible, right? So this test charge must be very small so that it does not create its own electric field, right? So electric field intensity is force per unit experienced by a test charge. Its SI unit is Newton per Coulomb. It is a vector quantity, and the direction of electric field intensity is always the same as that of the direction of force. How much force experienced by this test charge due to this positive charge? Along this direction, suppose, right now. So electric field direction is also along this one. Direction of electric field is same as that of force on test charge, right? It never comes to zero. It extends to infinity. It means electric field never comes to zero. It extends up to infinity. We'll draw graph after deriving the formula for electric field intensity for a point charge. Okay, so it becomes clear when I draw the graph. Now again, for positive charge, suppose there is a positive charge. Now what is the electric field intensity due to this positive charge? Magnitude is same, but direction is opposite. Due to positive test charge, direction is always away from the charge. It means radially outward. And for negative charge, direction of electric field, due to negative charge, this test charge experiences force in towards the charge. It means electric field intensity is always towards the charge. It means radially inward. This is direction of electric field intensity. Now, what is the formula for electric field due to point charge? This is a point charge, and due to this point charge, this test charge experiences some force, and we calculate electric field intensity at this point. So, in terms of using Coulomb's law, in terms of Q, what is the value for electric field intensity? You know, electric field intensity is force per unit test charge. Suppose this is a charge, and suppose put one test charge at this point. Distance between two charges is r. This test charge must be very small so that it does not create its own electric field. Now the force between the two test charge, you know what is the formula for force between Q and Q naught? Q naught by R square. And its direction is both are positive, so away from the positive charge. This is direction of force. Now what is electric field at this point due to discharge? Force experienced by a test charge, right now. How much force experienced by this test charge? F by Q naught, and F is Q naught by R square into Q naught cancel. It becomes E equal to KQ by R square. This is the magnitude for electric field intensity due to point charge. Suppose point charge is Q and the distance at which electric field is determined. So you put one test charge at that point, and distance between that is R. R is the distance at which electric field is determined. It is given by E equal to KQ by R square, right? And direction of electric field is same as that of the force experienced by the test charge. So for positive charge, direction of electric field is away from charge. It means radially outward. And for negative charge, direction is towards the charge. It means radially inward, right? Okay, take a screenshot of this one. Then after this, I will discuss electric field due to a system of charges, like force due to a system, multiple charges, superposition principle. In the same way, electric field due to a system of charges, right? Okay. Now, electric field due to a system of charges or superposition principle. We studied about electric force due to a system of charges, multiple charges, right now. In the same way, electric field also due to a system of charges, or you can say superposition principle. It states that electric field at any point, suppose this is a point, right? And there are number of charges Q1, Q2, Q3, suppose Q4, right? Number of charges are there. Now total electric field at any point is equal to vector sum of electric field produced by each individual charges. Suppose this Q1 charges produce electric field at this point is in this direction, right? E1. This Q2 charges produce electric field in this direction, E2, this Q3 charges produce electric field in this direction. E3, this Q4 charges produce electric field in this direction. E4, so total electric field at point O, E net, is equal to vector sum of electric field produced by each individual charges, E1 plus E2 plus E3 plus dash dash dash. If there are n number of charges, then total electric field at a point due to n number of charges is E1 plus E2 plus E3 dash 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 En, right? This is electric field due to a system of charges, and in the same way numericals are there for system of charges force. In the same way there are also some numericals for using superposition principle for electric field also, right? One more thing is left. What is the expression for electric field? E equal to K Q by R square. Q, due to this charge there is an electric field region around this charge. At a distance R, electric field due to a point charge is KQ by R square. You must remember this point, right? So when you draw a graph between E and R, here is E and this side is R. E is inversely proportional to R square, na? So electric field never comes to 0. It extends to infinity. So electric field decreases with the increase in distance and extends to infinity. This is the graph between E and R. Okay, take a screenshot. After this I will discuss electric field lines. Okay, now electric field lines. What are electric field lines? Electric field lines are a smooth continuous curve representing the presence of electric field in a region. Suppose there is a charge Q, and around this charge you know that electric field is present. So if you put any test charge near this charge in this region, this Q naught test charge, then it takes some path in this region, like it moves in this way or it moves in this way. So these paths, these curves which are continuous, and these curves means there is presence of electric field in this region, right? So this curve represents presence of electric field in this region, right? And these curves are called electric field lines. So you can define electric field lines as smooth. This is a continuous curve representing the presence of electric field in a region. If you put any test charge in this region, this test charge takes some path, right? It shows that it experiences some force due to the presence of that electric field, right? So the path taken by this charge represents the presence of electric field, and that path, that curve is smooth, continuous. It is called electric field lines. Now what are different properties of these electric field lines? These lines begins at positive charge and ends at negative charge. Suppose this is a positive charge, right? So electric field lines begins from this positive charge. Okay, it begins from this positive charge in this way and ends at negative charge. Suppose there is a negative charge, so it ends at this point. It ends at negative charge. It means it starts from the positive charge and terminates at negative charge, right? These lines are continuous. These lines are continuous, but it do not form closed loops because direction is from positive charge to negative charge, not from then negative to positive. So it does not form closed loops. It's very important. But when you study about magnetic field lines, then it forms closed loops, right? Next one is the relative closeness of field lines gives magnitude of electric field. Suppose this is a charge. Suppose there are 4 field lines, right? So it represents this 8 field lines. So these relative closeness of these field lines represents strength of electric field. Suppose near the charge these field lines are close to each other, right? And when you move further, these field lines separated from each other. Distance between the field lines increase. Again, when you move to this point, these field lines again separated from each other. So near the charge, field lines are closer. It means there is a strong electric field near the charge, right? So relative closeness of field lines gives magnitude of electric field. Closer lines means strong electric field and far apart lines means weak electric field, right? Now again, these are electric field lines and the tangent at a point on field lines give electric field at that point, right? It means suppose this is electric field lines and you want to find electric field, direction of electric field at this point. So you just draw one tangent to this point. It gives direction of electric field at that point. So the tangent at a point on field lines give electric field at that point. The two field lines do not intersect each other. It's very, very important in 1 marks question. Why two field lines do not intersect each other? Suppose there are two field lines. One is this one, right? One field line is this one and another field line, suppose this one. And these two field lines intersect each other. Now what happened at the point of intersection? These field lines gives direction of electric field in this direction, draw tangent, and these field lines give direction of electric field in this direction. So at the point of intersection, two tangents are drawn. It means two directions of electric field, which is not possible. So the two field lines do not intersect each other, because if intersect, then there will be two directions of electric field at the point of intersection, which is not possible, right? Last one, the field lines are perpendicular to the surface of conductor. Suppose this is a conductor, then field lines are always perpendicular to this surface of conductor, right? If it is positive charge, away from the charge. If it is negative charge, towards the charge, radially inward. But the field lines are always perpendicular to the surface of a conductor, right? After this, in exams it comes that draw electric field lines for different charge system, for positive charge, negative charge, for system of two equal and opposite charge, and it's very, very important. This question is very, very important. Many years this question comes, like in 2000, this one, okay, this question is very important. It comes in 2019, 18 also, 17 also, 16 also, up to 2010. This question comes in every year in 1 or 2 marks question. What are electric field lines? Why two field lines do not intersect each other? What are different properties? Draw field lines for different charge distribution. So take a screenshot of this one. After this, I'm going to draw electric field lines for different charge distribution system, right? Take a screenshot fast. Now, electric field lines for different charge system. This question is also very, very important for 1 marks or 2 marks. You have to draw electric field lines for positive charge. Suppose this is a positive charge and electric field lines is always away from the positive charge, radially outwards. So you draw like this one, right, for positive charge, and direction is away from the positive charge. You draw any number of lines, okay, because the value of charge is not given, just symmetrically you draw any number of lines. This is field lines for positive charge. Now for negative charge, in the same way, you draw different number of lines, but direction is towards the negative charge, right, towards the radially inward. This is the electric field lines for negative charge. Now for pair of unlike charges, right? Suppose there is a positive charge and there is a negative charge, and you know electric field lines begins from the positive charge and ends at negative charge. So it is like this one, right? Suppose the field lines goes from this side and ends at negative charge. Again this side, like this one. You draw like this one, okay? You draw like this one, okay, and this side towards the negative charge, right? These are electric field lines for unlike charges. It starts from positive charge, ends at negative charge. Now for pair of like charges, it's very, very important. Suppose this is a positive charge and there is another positive charge. Now you know electric field lines starts from the positive charge, okay, so it goes like this one and it again also goes like this one, but it never intersect each other. So at this point it bends its path like this one, right? Like this one. Okay, in this way. Because the two field lines never intersect each other and these two are positive, so they repel each other and it bends in path like this one. So for two like charges, electric field are like this one, right? And if there are two negative charge, just change the direction, it is towards the charge system. So these are electric field lines for different charge system. Hope you understood. Okay. After this, we will start electric dipole, right? Now, before starting electric dipole, there is an important topic which is left, that is electric field on the axis of charged ring. It is very, very important. It generally comes in the exams. What is this? You have to find electric field on the axis of charged ring. Suppose this is a ring and charge is uniformly distributed over this ring. Now you have to find electric field on the axis of, which one is axis? Distance from the center. This is, suppose this is ring and this is distance from the center of the ring to a point. Suppose this one is the point P. So you have to find electric field at this point P due to this charged ring. Over the ring, charge is uniformly distributed, right? Suppose A is this radius of the ring. Radius of the ring is A and X. You have to find electric field on the axis of the ring. It means at this point you have to find electric field. Let distance from the center of the ring to the point at which electric field is determined is X. This one is X, center of the ring, and this radius is A. And total charge distributed over this ring is capital Q. Capital Q is the total charge over the ring, right? Now you know electric field due to a point charge Q. What is the formula for that one? Electric field due to a point charge Q is KQ and by R square. R is the distance at which point is to be determined from the charge. But here there is not only one charge. There are large number of charges uniformly distributed over this ring. So how you find total field at this point? At this point P on the axis of the ring, electric field is due to all the charges which is uniformly distributed over the ring. So how you calculate total electric field due to all the charges, Q charges, right? For this, you have to consider first a small charge element dq. And you know, for point charge, small charge, formula for electric field is what? E equal to kq by r square. So again, you have to first consider this charge element dq and distance from this charge to this point at which electric field is to be determined is small r. And this r equal to what? Under root a square plus x square. So you have to calculate a small electric field at point this P. It means dE due to this charge element dq and distance is r. So that field becomes how much? dE equal to k dq by r square. This is a small field due to this charge element dq. And the direction of that field is, this is positive charge. So direction is away from the positive charge and line joining these two charges. So direction is this one. This is direction for electric field, right? So let us suppose that this angle is theta. So this angle again becomes theta. Now this electric field has two components. One is along, it means cos component, and the one is sine component, right? Now you take another diametrically opposite end, and at that point again you take another charge element dq. Due to this charge element, again there is a field in this direction, right? And again it has two components, dE cos theta and dE sin theta. Due to these diametrically opposite charge elements, here total electric field is dE sin theta and dE sin theta component cancel out, right? Because both are equal in magnitude. This distance is also r. You have to determine electric field from this point or this point. Distance is same right now because axis from the axis center to the point at which field is determined is always x, and this is radius is always a. So this distance never change from whatever point from here axis, distance is same, r, every point distance is r. So if distance is same, charge element is same, it means electric field is also same. So here both d sin theta component cancel out each other and only cos component is left, right? So total electric field at this point, if you take different points diametrically opposite end, this point or this point, again only cos component is left, sin component cancel out each other. So total electric field is only due to cos component, sin component of diametrically opposite charge element cancel out each other. Therefore net electric field is only integration of dE cos theta over the whole ring, right? And this d is how much? K dq by r square. So K dq by r square cos theta. For each charge element, right, A is constant, x is constant and r is also constant. If these three are constant, it means theta is also constant. So you take K is constant, r is constant, cos theta is constant. You take this outside, inside only integration dq is left, and you know total charge over this ring is q. Q is what? Integration of dq is small dq. If you add all this, total charge becomes capital Q. So in place of integration of dq, you put q. And what is the value of this cos theta? Here, look at here. This in triangle, this one dq over p, cos theta is x by r, base by hypotenuse. So cos theta is x by r, put the value of cos theta x by r and integration of dq, total charge q. It becomes kq x by r cube. Now you put the value of r here, under root a square plus x square. So this, in place of r, you write x square plus a square 1 by 2. It means it becomes cube is here, so 3 by 2, right? So net electric field on the axis of charged ring at a distance x from the center is kqx by x square plus a square 3 by 2. This is the final expression, right? Q is total charge, x is the distance at which field is to be determined, a is the radius of the ring. You must remember this formula, E net equal to kqx by x square plus a square 3 by 2, right? Now again at center, center means this distance x is 0. If this becomes 0, x is 0 means E net is 0. So at the center of the ring, you must remember that total electric field is 0, right? Again, if x is greater than a, it means if distance is very large, the point at which electric field is to be determined is very far as compared to the radius of the ring. So you neglect this one. So x square is neglected in comparison to a square, only left is kqx by x square 3 by 2. This 2 cancel, kqx by x cube, again 1 x cancel, kq by x square. This is the expression for electric field when this distance x is very larger than radius of the ring, and in this case it behaves like point charge because electric field due to point charge is what? kq by r square. It is similar to this one, kq by x square, right? Again there is another case, case 3. You add this one also. If this distance x is infinity, if x tends to infinity, then at that case E net becomes what? Again if x is infinity, 1 by infinity is 0. So again E net is 0, right? In this case also electric field is 0 if x tends to infinity. So you must remember this one, it's very important, electric field on the axis of charged ring. You just draw a figure neat and clean and then take one charge element. You have to find total electric field due to that charge element and integrate over the whole ring. Only cos component is left. E net is d cos theta integration, and then put the value of d and then you solve. You get answer electric field kqx by x square plus a square 3 by 2. Okay, take a screenshot. Then we will start next topic, electric dipole. Now next is electric dipole. What is this dipole? A system of equal and opposite charges separated by some distance, this forms electric dipole. Suppose there is a minus q charge and plus q charge separated by some distance twice d. I have taken twice d for simplicity so that calculation becomes easy when you halve this distance. So that's why you take twice a or twice d, anything. Okay. So system of equal and opposite charges. Both charges are equal and opposite. Suppose this is minus 2q, this one is plus tq. 3 plus 3q minus 3q. In this way, equal and opposite charges separated by some distance. This forms electric dipole and its value is given by electric dipole moment represented by small p. And this small p is equal to product of charges and separation between the two charges. It means q into 2a. This electric dipole moment is a vector quantity, right? And its direction is always from negative charge to positive charge, from minus q to plus q. Direction of dipole moment is this one along the dipole axis. This one is dipole axis, right? And its SI unit is, for charge is coulomb and for a meter, so its SI unit is coulomb meter. Now in your syllabus you have to find electric field along the axial position and equatorial position. First you must know about what is this axial position of electric dipole. Suppose this is a dipole minus q plus q separated by distance 2d. Now points lying on the axis of this dipole. This one is the axis of the dipole and suppose this is point P. So this position is axial position of dipole. Points lying on the axis of the electric dipole, right? Next, equatorial position. What is equatorial position of dipole? Points lying on the perpendicular bisector of this dipole axis. This one is dipole axis, right? And perpendicular bisector. Bisector means again this distance becomes half a and this distance becomes a and this one is 90-degree angle. So perpendicular bisector of this dipole axis is this one and any point on this perpendicular bisector is equatorial position of electric dipole. In your syllabus it's very important both topics, electric field on the axial position of dipole, electric field on the equatorial position of dipole. Take a screenshot, then next we'll discuss these two positions in detail. Now electric field at an axial position. You know axial position along the axis of the dipole. So to determine electric field at point P, right? Suppose this is a dipole separated by the distance twice a. Okay, and let us suppose that distance from the center of the dipole to the point at which electric field is determined is r. Okay, and you have to find electric field at point P due to this dipole. Dipole means both electric field due to minus q charge and plus q charge, right? So again you know that electric field at any point due to a charge, you must know the distance. So what is the distance from this plus q charge to point P? Center to this point P is r, right? And this is okay a. If you take half, then this becomes a. Whole is r, this one is a, it means this becomes r minus a, right? And distance from minus q charge, right? So center to this point P is r and this one is again a, right? So distance from minus q charge to point P is r plus a. If you know the distance charge, you can easily determine electric field due to two charges at point P. Now electric field due to plus q charge here is what? kq by distance is r minus a, so r minus a square. And this one is positive charge, so direction is away from the charge. So direction due to positive charge is this one, right? This is direction of electric field due to plus q charge. Now electric field due to minus q charge. Distance is r plus a. So kq by r plus a ka whole square. And its direction, this was negative charge, so direction is towards the charge. Direction of electric field due to minus q charge is towards the charge. So towards left. And direction due to plus q charge towards right. Now which one is greater? Electric field due to plus q charge or minus q charge? Electric field is inversely proportional to distance. So a smaller distance is due to plus q charge. So it means electric field due to this plus q charge is greater. So net electric field is electric field due to plus q charge minus electric field due to minus q charge. Now you put these two values, electric field due to plus q charge, electric field due to minus q charge. You get E net equal to plus q charge kq by r minus a whole square and minus q charge minus kq by r plus a whole square. When you calculate this one, you take LCM of these two and you take kq common, inside you get r plus a square minus r minus a whole square. Open this one, a plus b whole square formula, a square plus b square plus 2ab. So you get r square plus 2ar plus a square for this one, and r minus a square minus b plus b square minus 2ab. So you get this one. Here this r square cancel, a square cancel, you get 4ar, kq into 4ar by r square minus a square. If you take here 2a, then you take 2 outside, q into 2a, you take 2 outside into r, and q into 2a is what? Dipole moment p. So you write q into 2a small p. 2kpr by r square minus a square is the net electric field at any point r from the center of the dipole or the axial position, right? And direction of, what is direction of this electric field? Electric field is a vector quantity, you know. Direction of dipole moment is from minus to plus q, and net electric field E plus q is greater, na? E plus q is greater than E minus q, and plus q is towards right. Right means towards the dipole moment direction, minus q to plus q. So direction of electric field is in direction of dipole moment p. If you write in vector form, then this is vector, this one is also vector, right? 2kpr by this one. Now for r greater than a, if this distance from the center to the point at which electric field is determined is very greater than the length of the dipole, in that case a square is neglected, so it becomes 2kpr by r to the power square 4. 1 r cancel, you get k twice kp by r cube. So electric field is 2kp by r cube, right? One important thing is there, you in the exams it may ask in 1 marks question, draw electric graph between E and R for this axial position. So E is inversely proportional to R cube, na? Inversely proportional to R cube. So what type of graph is formed? Suppose this side E and this side R, okay? And electric field decreases with the increase in distance like this one, okay? This is the graph between E and R. Hope you understood this one. This topic is very important from the examination point of view. It asked in 2019, 2018 and 2015 also. So must revise it properly, right? Take a screenshot, then we will move to the next topic, electric field at an equatorial position. Electric field at an equatorial position. You know what is equatorial position? Perpendicular bisector of the dipole. And suppose you have to find electric field at point P, which is at a distance r from the center of the dipole. Again here electric field at point P is due to both minus q charge and plus q charge. So you have to calculate electric field due to the both charges and then find the resultant electric field. So let us find it. Suppose first plus q charge, right? What is the electric field at point P due to this plus q charge? Distance suppose x, and x is equal to under root, this one is r, so r square plus a square, right? Here again x is equal to under root r square plus a square. Distance from the two charges are same. So due to plus q charge, electric field is kq by x square. X means under root r square plus a square, right? And again due to minus q charge, again kq by x square. X is under root r square plus a. But direction of the two field is different, right? Due to plus q charge, direction is away from the positive charge, so it is along this direction, electric field due to plus q charge. And due to minus q charge, towards the negative charge, so it is along this direction. So electric field due to minus q charge is along this direction. So plus q charge away from plus q and minus q charge towards minus q, right? So these two fields are not in the same direction. Suppose this angle is theta, it means this angle also becomes theta. So this electric field has also two components, sine and cos, and this electric field plus Q has also two components, sine and cos. But you know, magnitude of the two fields are same because both are at the same distance. Magnitude of charge is same. So both magnitude has same. Suppose this is also E and this one is also E. Magnitude of both the field is same but direction is different. So resolve this into two components. Sine component cancel each other. Suppose this one is point P, right? And here electric field due to plus Q charge is along this, electric field due to minus Q charge is along this one, right? This angle is theta. So it is resolved into two components. This field has this side and this side. This one is E cos theta and this side E sin theta. Again this field minus Q, this side cos component E cos theta and this side E sin theta. Why I am writing E? Because electric field due to plus Q and minus Q charge both are equal to E. Both are equal to E. So sine component cancel each other, right? Now both are equal and opposite, only cos component is left. So net electric field both are in the same direction, should be added, E cos theta plus E cos theta, it becomes twice E cos theta. Now what is cos theta here? Here cos theta is in this triangle base by hypotenuse. It means this distance is what? It's A, right now. So A by x. A by x means A by under root r square plus A square. Therefore E net becomes twice E. Value of E is how much? KQ by square root under root r square plus A square whole square. So whole square square cancel, only left is r square plus A square, right? And here cos theta is A by r square plus A square 1 by 2. Here power is 1, here is 1 by 2. So 1 plus 1 by 2 becomes 3 by 2. So here K Q into 2A. You write 2 here, Q into 2A by r square plus A square 3 by 2. You know Q into 2A is what? Dipole moment. So you write just P, Kp by r square plus A square 3 by 2. This is the net electric field along the equatorial position. Now what is the direction of this electric field? Here dipole moment is in this direction from negative to positive and net electric field is in this direction, right now, minus Q to plus Q, dipole moment direction, and net electric field is in this direction, E net. So direction is opposite to the dipole moment. You can write direction of electric field is opposite to direction of dipole moment. Okay. If R is greater than A, if this distance R is very greater than this A, then it becomes A square is neglected in comparison to R square and electric field becomes Kp by R square 3 by 2. This 2 cancel, Kp by R cube. So electric field is equal to Kp by R cube. In vector form you can write E and P are in opposite direction. So you write minus sign in vector form. Okay, I think you have understood. Now, there is a comparison between electric field along axial and equatorial position. Equatorial position Kp by R cube. Remember, axial position twice Kp by R cube. It means electric field along axial position is twice electric field along equatorial position, right now? Because axial position twice of this equatorial position. So E axial equal to twice E equatorial. Okay, hope you understood. Take a screenshot of this one, right? After this, we will discuss next topic, torque on a dipole in a uniform electric field. Okay. Now, torque on a dipole in uniform electric field. What happens when dipole is placed in a uniform electric field? Uniform electric field means field lines are separated by equal distance uniformly, right? So this represents uniform electric field, right? And when dipole is placed inside this field, what happens? It experiences some torque. Let us see how and what is the value for that torque. Okay. Both charges minus Q and plus Q charge experiences some force due to this electric field. Force on this plus Q charge is along this direction, right? You know electric field is in this direction means plus Q is here or minus Q here. So force on plus Q charge is along this direction, and force on this minus q charge is along this direction. It means both forces are equal but opposite in direction. So net force becomes 0. But both forces not at the same point. Suppose if one force is acting at this point in this direction and other force at the same point in opposite direction, so net force is 0. But one force is acting in this direction, force on plus q, and another force is acting in this direction, force on minus q. Both points are different, line of action is different, so it starts rotating. Rotating means some torque is developed, some rotational motion is developed when dipole is placed in a uniform electric field, right? So you can write in this way, both acts at different points of dipole and hence forms couple which exerts torque. Now let us see what is the value for that torque. Torque is what? Force into perpendicular distance between the 2 points, right? So one point is this one A, another point is this one B, and perpendicular distance is this one AC between these 2 points, and force on both are equal to Q into E. So torque equal to force is Q into E, and perpendicular distance between the 2 forces is 2A sine theta. AC is 2A sine theta, and this Q into 2A is what? PE. Q into 2A is dipole moment P. So formula becomes tau equal to PE sine theta, and sine theta means, if you write in vector form, torque equal to P cross E. So what is direction of this torque? P is in this direction, right? Right now, minus Q2 plus Q charge. E is in this direction, electric field. So P cross E means dipole rotates in this direction from P to E, and direction of torque is this one, right? This tau equal to P cross E. So when you place this dipole in this field, this dipole starts rotating in the direction of electric field. So you can write, when dipole is placed in a uniform electric field, the torque tends to rotate the dipole in the direction of field, right? Now there are 2 cases for maximum torque and minimum torque. Maximum torque when theta becomes 90 degree. It means when field is in this direction and dipole is placed in this direction, minus q charge somewhere here, plus q charge here. So angle between this is 90 degree, and in this case maximum torque, maximum rotational motion is produced. That is P into E. Minimum torque when both dipole movement and electric field are in the same direction, theta is 0 or anti-parallel to each other. It means theta is 180 degree. Now again, in both the cases torque is 0, but one position is for stable equilibrium, another condition is for unstable equilibrium. When stable equilibrium, when theta equal to 0, it means electric field and dipole movement both are in the same direction. In this case, what happened? When slightly rotate the dipole, it just come to its original position. So in this case, torque is 0 and this condition is a stable equilibrium condition. What is unstable equilibrium? Unstable equilibrium is when body does not return to its original position. Electric field is in this direction, dipole movement is in this direction. When you place this dipole in this field, the dipole try to orient in the direction of field, and then after that it remains in that position, does not come to its own position, right? And this condition is unstable equilibrium. In both the cases, torque is 0, but when you slightly move the dipole, it returns to its original position, right? When theta is 0, but when theta is 180 degree, it does not return to its own position. So this is the condition for unstable equilibrium. Generally it comes in 1 or 2 marks question, right? And this question comes, I think, in the year 2017. Okay, so this question is also very important. Torque on a dipole in a uniform electric field. Take a screenshot of this. Next topic is electric flux. This topic is also very important because this concept is used in Gauss theorem also, right? So question, it may come in 1 or 2 marks question that define electric flux. Is it a scalar or vector quantity? It comes, I think, in 2015 and 18. Okay, so this one is very, very important. In 1 marks or 2 marks question it may come. What is electric flux? It is number of field lines passing perpendicular to the plane surface. Suppose this is a plane surface, 2 dimension. Okay, so how many number of lines passing perpendicular to this surface? This is electric flux. So it depends upon the area of this plane surface and area vector. Area vector is always perpendicular to this area. If area vector and field lines both are in the same direction, then maximum number of lines passing through this surface, right? If you rotate this surface and area electric field is again in this direction, but you rotate this surface, then area vector also changes. Area vector is normal to this area. So there is an angle between electric field lines and area vector. So number of lines passing through a particular surface depends upon area vector, electric field intensity, and also angle between area vector and electric field intensity. So its formula becomes, it is represented by phi equal to E dot ds. E is electric field intensity vector and ds is area vector, and this area vector is always normal to area. If electric field intensity and normal to the area, it means area vector, both are in the same direction, then maximum number of lines passing through that surface, and that is electric flux. That time flux is maximum, right? Ds, this ds is area vector, this is electric field intensity vector, and theta is the angle between area vector and electric field vector, because if you rotate the plane, it means area vector make some angle with the electric field vector, and if you rotate and it becomes perpendicular to that. Suppose this is plane, okay, this time both are in the same direction, electric field vector and area vector. If you rotate this plane, it becomes this. Area vector is now this one, electric field is in this direction, both are 90 degree, no lines passing through this surface. So depends upon the angle also. Phi equal to E ds cos theta. It is dot product of two vectors, right? So it is a scalar quantity, and its SI unit is Newton meter square per coulomb. Because electric field is force per unit charge, Newton per coulomb, and area is in meter square. So SI unit becomes Newton meter square per coulomb. This is for open surface, 2-dimension surface, right? This is 2-dimension surface, open to both sides. But for 3-dimension, which is closed surface, we only take how many number of lines passing through a particular surface, right? Outward flux we only take. Here both inward, in 2-dimension, both inward flux and outward flux. But in 3-dimension closed surface we only take outward flux, right? So for closed surface, flux becomes E dot ds and integral of this one. This represents closed surface, E dot ds. E ds cos theta, theta is angle between E and ds. If there is angle, then we always take the component of electric field which is the direction of area vector. It means E cos theta, and this one is ds. So formula becomes E ds cos theta. When flux is maximum, when both area vector and electric field vector are in the same direction. It means electric field and area are normal to each other. Area vector is always normal to the area. Suppose this is a plane surface, so area is this one, and normal to this area is area vector. And flux is maximum when theta is 0. Theta 0 means both area vector and field are in the same direction, right? So this is about flux. Then after this we will discuss Gauss theorem, but before starting Gauss theorem, you must know about charge distribution, linear charge distribution, surface charge distribution and volume charge distribution. So charge distribution, right? Charge distribution. There are 3 types of charge distribution, right? First one is linear charge distribution. Second one is surface charge distribution. And third one is volume charge distribution, right? Charge distribution. Linear charge distribution means charge is distributed over length. Suppose this is the length of conductor or wire. Suppose length is L, right? And charge is distributed over this length. So for this one, linear charge distribution, we always use linear charge density, and this is charge per unit length, right? In unit length, how much charge? In L length, suppose Q charge, right? In L length, Q charge is there. In unit length, lambda is charge per unit length, right? So this is linear charge density. This lambda is linear charge density. In the same way, surface charge distribution, suppose this is a surface and charge is distributed over this surface. For surface charge distribution, we always use surface charge density sigma, and this is equal to, suppose A is the area of this surface, charge per unit area. This one is surface charge density. It's very important. Is it used in when we are discussing about Gauss theorem and their applications. Then volume charge density. Suppose this is 3-dimension volume cube and charge is distributed over this volume, right? Suppose V is the volume. In this case, we use volume charge density, and this is equal to charge per unit volume. In unit volume, how much charge is there? And this rho is called volume charge density. So is it clear? Surface charge density represented by, surface charge density represented by sigma, charge per unit area, volume charge density, charge per unit volume represented by rho, and linear charge density represented by lambda, charge per unit length. Okay, take a screenshot of this one. After this, we will discuss Gauss theorem. Now, Gauss theorem. This topic is very, very, very important from examination point of view. Gauss theorem and its applications. There are 3 applications. One application is deleted from your syllabus for this year. So we will discuss only 2 applications. One for infinitely thin large wire, and another is infinite plane sheet, and a uniform spherical shell is deleted from your syllabus. So first we will discuss Gauss theorem. What is this and why it is used? Where it is used? For complicated circuits, we can't, it's very difficult to calculate total electric field flux to the complicated circuit. For simple circuit, we can easily find by using Coulomb's law, but for complicated circuit, we use Gauss theorem. What is this? It states that total flux, okay, this is total flux over a closed surface is 1 by epsilon naught times net charge enclosed by the closed surface, right? Suppose this is a cube, closed surface, and total charge inside this cube is, suppose, Q. So how much total flux is enclosed by this closed surface? It's simple. If you know total charge, then total flux is 1 by epsilon naught times total charge. Q is Q inside, enclosed inside the surface. So charge must be enclosed inside the surface, then only we apply Gauss theorem. If charge is outside the closed surface, then you can't use Gauss theorem. So charge must be enclosed within a surface. If charge is not enclosed within the surface, then to apply Gauss theorem, you must draw enclosed surface, so that charge must be enclosed, and that closed surface is called Gaussian surface. Okay, so for if Q charge is enclosed inside a closed surface, then total flux is Q by epsilon naught, 1 by epsilon naught times total charge enclosed within the surface, right? So phi equal to, mathematically you can write phi equal to E dot ds Q by epsilon naught, right? But there are some conditions to apply Gauss theorem. The charge must be enclosed within a closed surface, and that closed surface is called Gaussian surface. So Gaussian surface should be symmetric about charge distribution. The Gaussian surface should be symmetric. And second one, the electric field must be symmetric. Symmetric means constant, value is constant or same at all points on the Gaussian surface. Suppose there is a charge, and if you draw a Gaussian surface like this one, so this surface should be symmetric, and electric field on each point of this surface must be symmetric. It means electric field is same or constant on the Gaussian surface, right? Third point is angle theta must be same at all points on the surface. The angle between electric field vector and area vector must be same. Theta must be same at every point on the Gaussian this surface. And last one, Gaussian surface must not pass through any point charge. Suppose this is a charge, right? So you draw a Gaussian surface so that it does not pass through this charge. This one is wrong. Charge must be enclosed. You draw surface like this one, and this surface must be symmetric, so that if these conditions are satisfied, we can apply Gauss theorem, right? One more thing you must remember, it may comes in 1 marks generally. For dipole, net flux is always 0. Suppose dipole is placed inside this cube. This is a cube, right? If charge q is placed, then total flux is phi equal to q by epsilon naught. But if a dipole is placed inside this cube, dipole has charge, total charge how much? Minus q and plus q. It means total charge is 0. So net flux is also 0, because flux is q inside. Q inside, or you can say q total by epsilon naught. If total charge is 0 inside the closed surface, it means flux is 0. There is no matter where the charge lies inside the closed surface, at any positions q1, q2, q3, total charge is q1 plus q2 plus q3. But in case of dipole, total charge is 0, so flux is also 0. Suppose in exams it may ask, if there is a cube, then how much total flux passing through this cube? So total flux, it does not depends on shape and size of the surface, just charge is enclosed inside the surface. It may be spherical, cube, cylindrical, anything. Total flux is always, if charge q, then q by epsilon naught. And again, if it asks that how much flux passing through one surface of the cube. Suppose in cube how many surfaces? 6 surface. In 6 surface total flux is q by epsilon naught. So for one surface, how much flux? For one surface, total flux passes through one surface of the cube is 1 by 6 q by epsilon naught, because total flux is q by epsilon naught. So this is about Gauss theorem. Now I am going to discuss different applications of Gauss theorem. Now first application of Gauss theorem is electric field due to an infinitely long straight charge wire. This application is very important. Okay, I think it comes in the year 2017. Okay, so there is a chance to come in this year also, 2021. Electric field due to infinitely long straight charge wire. There is a long straight charged wire. Charge is distributed uniformly over this wire. Okay, so we have to find electric field at a distance, suppose r or any distance, due to this charged wire. So how we calculate? It's very complicated. So we have to use Gauss theorem. But to use Gauss theorem, this charge must be enclosed within a surface that is called Gaussian surface. And what type of Gaussian surface? On the Gaussian surface, electric field must be symmetric or constant. So suppose this positive charge distributed, so at a distance r on both sides, electric field is same, right? E is k q by r. If distance is same, so at all these points electric field is also same. So if you join these points, you get one cylindrical Gaussian surface. So what type of Gaussian surface here? Here is, this one is cylindrical Gaussian surface, right? Because each point on this Gaussian surface electric field is same, and as it is positive charge, so electric field is what direction? Away from this charge. It means towards this direction. Like direction of electric field is this one. Now you have to calculate total electric field, right? So here there are three surfaces. This one is lateral surface, this upward, and this one is downward surface, right? So surface electric field is always at this point, also electric field is in this direction. At this point P also, at a distance R, electric field is in this direction. At this point also electric field is this direction, but direction of area vector is different. Here area vector is along this E, but here area vector is normal to this surface now, and upward surface normal is this one. Similarly in downward surface normal is downward. So how you calculate total flux? Total flux of this surface is phi 1 plus phi 2 plus phi 3. Phi 1 is total flux through this surface first. This one is second surface. Phi 2 is total flux through second surface, and phi 3 is total flux through this third surface, right? Now in first surface E dot ds, E ds cos theta. Now in this surface angle is what? 90 degree. So E ds cos 90. In second surface angle between E and ds is 0. So E ds cos 0. And in third surface again 90 degree angle. So E ds cos 90. You know cos 90 is 0. Cos 90 is 0. Only we left with, and cos 0 is 1. So only term left, total flux phi equal to flux through the second surface, E ds. E is constant on this surface, so you take E outside. And what is the surface area of this curved surface? Suppose L is the length of the cylinder. So area of the cylinder is 2 pi RL at a distance R, right? Radius is this R. So 2 pi RL. Now this is equation number 1. By Gauss law, flux is what? Q by epsilon naught. As there is a linear charge distribution, so here we use linear charge density lambda, and this is equal to charge per unit length. Lambda is what? Linear charge density, okay? So from this, Q equal to lambda into L, then phi equal to Q by epsilon naught, it means lambda L by epsilon naught. This is equation number 2, and then from 1 and 2 you get E dot 2 pi RL equal to lambda L by epsilon naught, and then E equal to this LL cancel, lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught R. This is the total electric field due to an infinitely long straight charged wire. And also it may ask in the exam that draw a graph between electric field at this distance R. So here you get what? E is inversely proportional to R now. So what type of graph is drawn? If E is this side and R is this side, so this decreases with the distance. Electric field decreases with the distance, right? E is inversely proportional to R. So you revise properly this topic. It's very, very important for this year, okay? Take a screenshot, then we will move to the next application, which is also very, very important. Second application, that is to determine electric field due to an infinite plane sheet of charge. This application is also very, very important. I think it comes in 2017. Okay, so this question is also very important, right? Yes, 2017. Here there is an infinite plane sheet of charge like this one. Suppose this is a plane sheet and charge is uniformly distributed over this sheet. Now you have to determine total electric field due to this plane sheet. So this is plane sheet. So electric field is positively charged, so electric field is away from the positive charge, this side also and this side also. So to enclose this charge, we draw a Gaussian surface. Here again, what type of Gaussian surface? Electric field is same at equal distance from this plane sheet. Suppose r distance, here electric field, r distance, here electric field is same. So you draw one cylinder again to enclose this plane sheet of charge, right? So here only difference is here electric field is same at this point. This is three-dimensional figure, and at this point, so you draw one flat cylindrical surface. And in case of wire, there is straight cylindrical surface, right? Again, there are three surfaces, curved surface, this one, and this one is this side, first surface, and here is another surface, right? Now, electric field is away from this positive side, direction of electric field is this side. And from this side also this side. But at this point, suppose at a distance r, you have to calculate electric field. So here area vector is along this E. In this lateral surface side, area vector is upward and electric field is this side. And again at the third surface, electric field is this side and area vector is also this side. So total flux is phi1 plus phi2 plus phi3. Phi1 is electric flux through this first surface, and through first surface angle between E and ds is 0. So E ds cos 0 through first surface. Through second surface, E and ds is at 90-degree angle. So E ds cos 90 through second surface. And through third surface, E and ds are same. So E ds cos 0 degree. So this cos 90, 0. Only these two are left. E ds cos 0 and E ds cos 0 is 1. So twice E ds, right? You take E is constant at a distance r, equal distance, electric field is same on both sides of the plane sheet. A is total area of this cross section, right? A is the total area of this cross section, right? So 2EA, okay? And again, this equation number 1 from Gauss law, phi equal to Q by epsilon naught. But here, surface charge is distributed over surface. So we use surface charge density sigma. Sigma is what? Surface charge density, and it is given by Q by A, charge per unit area. From here Q equal to sigma. You put this value in Gauss law, so phi becomes Q is sigma A by epsilon naught, equation number 2. Now from 1 and 2, twice EA equal to sigma A by epsilon naught, AA cancel, E becomes sigma by 2 epsilon naught. Here you find that E is not dependent on R. Okay, whatever near points of that plane sheet electric field is same. E is independent on R, and total electric field due to this plane sheet is E equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. If this sheet is positively charged, then electric field is away from the sheet, right? But if this sheet is negatively charged, then total electric field is towards the plate. You note, either sigma is greater than 0, it means charge density is positive. If sigma is greater than 0, then electric field is away from the plate. Magnitude is same but away from the plate, right? And if sigma is less than 0, it means negatively charged plate, then for negative charge electric field is towards the plate. Electric field is directed towards the plate. These points are very important. Okay, so in this way you can find electric field due to an infinite plane sheet of charge, right? Please take a screenshot. Now I am going to solve one numerical based on this second application. Okay, now there is one question. This question, I think it comes in the year, it has come in the year 2016 and 19, and this question is also very important for 3 marks, right? Based on that plane charge sheet. Okay, suppose there are 2 uniformly plane sheet of charge. This is not a straight wire, plane sheet of charge. I just draw like this one, straight. Okay, but this is actually like this one, plane sheet of wire, having density plus sigma and another plate having density plus sigma. Now you have to calculate total electric field in between these 2 plates, outside this the plates, both sides, right? So, you know, electric field due to this first plate, what is the formula for that one? Sigma by 2 epsilon naught. Again, electric field due to the second plate is sigma by 2 epsilon naught. Now, in the inner region, you find that this is a positive plate, so electric field is in this direction. Again, this is a positive plate, electric field is this direction. So, though both electric fields are in opposite direction, so net electric field in inner region is 0, right? Now, in the outer region, suppose at this point Q, here due to this first plate, electric field is in this direction. Due to second plate, also electric field is in the same direction. So, and this region also left side, due to this plate, electric field is this direction. Due to second plate, also electric field is in this direction. So, total electric field is in the same direction. So, both are added, E1 plus E2, sigma by 2 epsilon naught plus sigma by 2 epsilon naught. Total electric field becomes, outside the region is sigma by epsilon naught, right? This is the case when both plates have same charge density plus sigma and plus sigma. Now, second case, if one plate has positive charge density and the plate has negative charge density, then in between the region, due to this positive plate, field is in this direction. Due to this negative plate, field is also in the same direction. So, total field is not 0 in this case. Here, total field is 0. But if there are two oppositely plates, then total field must be added E1 plus E2 and it becomes E equal to sigma by epsilon naught. And this principle is used in case of capacitor. Having plates, equal and opposite charges are there. So, total field inside the capacitor is equal to sigma by epsilon naught. Just remember this one. Now here outside the plates, in this region suppose Q, due to positive plate E1 is this side, due to negative plate E2 is this side. Both are in opposite direction. So total field becomes 0. Same case here also, right? So in the outer region, total field becomes 0. This question is very, very important. Please take a screenshot and revise it. Okay. Now with this, I am going to end the class. Hope you liked this one-shot revision for chapter 1. If you want these type of one-shot videos for other chapters, then please write in the comment box. Okay, students, keep revising and stay tuned with this channel. Thank you.